welcome back to another episode of Life After Kids with Doctors Brooke and Lynn. I'm Dr. Brooke.
And I'm Dr. Lynn.
Thank you for joining us once again today, ladies. We've had a full day of recording and we're up and at it again.
Back at it to talk about the last 90 days of the year.
How is it possible?
I mean, it's not. It's July.
It feels like it does. It's not even July.
It's not even July. It's May. I just lost track of the...
But you all are going to be hearing this probably in October or the end of September. So
yeah, and the point is planning ahead, right? So that's why we are talking about this. You're listening to this probably in October.
Correct.
And you're thinking forward to the next year. And if we wait till January, we've missed an opportunity, we've missed a window. It's just a little bit late. So it's great to get in the habit to check in on that in October.
Right.
Or thereabouts.
And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not very good at this, honestly. I'm really good with my,
That's fair.
And I'm going to do a better job this year. I'm glad we're talking about it now because it's May 1st. So in October, I'm going to do a better job. But I'm very, very good with start of the year.
Yeah.
Like planning the year out, but I usually wait till the holiday. And I'm very good with my mid-year check-in, which, by the way, if you need to hear about that, we did an episode on that, right?
Yeah.
So you could go back and look. I can link it in the show notes what episode it was, but that's very helpful too, right?
You're much better at that in the mid-year. I think that I've had good years and I've had not so good years of doing the check-in. I think the thing is if you get it done ahead of the holidays, because the holidays are just going to sweep you up.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody does typically feel a little bit more motivated in January. But some of these things you might need to take action on, whether it's purchasing something or making a plan or taking an action step.
Right.
And you may need to get it done ahead of January to not be behind the eight ball on what your plan is.
Yeah, I agree. And I usually wait. Like I said, I wait and I still will do this because I do enjoy it. And usually I'm with you. We go away. Either we've been together for Christmas or we're together the week between Christmas and New Year. And usually during that downtime, that week, I take some time to reflect on the year and then to build out the next year.
And listen, that's great. That's probably more than 95% of the people are doing. So if you're doing something, no matter when it is, you're doing great.
Yes.
Right? And it's just the fact of giving some time to think about this. Like, what is it that you want? What do you want? And if we don't sit and really get honest with ourselves about that and give it some time, give us some space. It's great to do it on vacation because you're outside of your normal four walls. So you kind of can expand your thinking a little bit more. You're doing great.
Right. But I do think there's something to be said for, and I'm going to do it this year, just starting before the holiday rush. Just starting to brainstorm, jot down some ideas. I have done them in the past. I like to keep a section in my notes in my phone and just as things occur to me that I would like to do for the year. Because sometimes you get to that, if you wait till that last week or till the new year starts, it's all right in front of you the whole year. And it's like, you might miss things.
Yeah.
It's maybe you're not going to plan for yourself big enough or dream big enough if you don't take the added time.
I think that's really possible, right? That you just kind of choose what's available, like easier if it's sort of like on a time crunch,
right?
You know, if you're in the habit of setting goals. To that point as well, if you start in October, for me, my thinking evolves and I love to do it. I mean, I am not one that you have to force to like sit and think about plans and so forth, but it changes. So I don't always know what I want. So I start the process thinking early so that then, you know, I'll tweak it and refine it and eventually I'll settle on a plan that goes good for me.
Yeah.
So
I love that. And plus I think for me, if I start doing that in October, I think that then when I do get to the holiday, it won't, because I also feel like it's not work because it's fun and it, you know, but it is time consuming and I don't feel like it's looming over my head that I've got to get it done. So maybe if I start early and sort of have that plan, I'll be more relaxed.
Yes. And starting your Christmas shopping early. I just did that last year, having it done by September, October. I mean, you guys have all probably been doing this for years. And if you have, good for you. But like, I'm late to the game and it's a total game changer. it's the best way to enjoy the holidays versus being like stressed out, frazzled
Yes.
of nerves.
And I always have poo-pooed that. Always been like, yeah, I want to be in the mood. I want to go to the stores when the holiday music is going and like just really
I've
feel
got
it.
time for
But
that.
I'm telling you, we both made that decision together because it was 2 years ago that we were both so frazzled. We went into the holiday. We were launching something. Remember with Life After
Yes,
Kids,
I
we
sure
were both
do.
burnt out and beside ourselves. We ended up in Florida together, like we were just. It was too much. It was all too much. And that's when we said that Christmas
Not gonna
next
do that
year,
again.
we're not doing it. And we both put it in our calendars. Because once again, you have to be intentional. So I had in my calendar for September, start Christmas shopping.
Yes, me too.
And we did. And I was not only done Christmas shopping, I was completely wrapped before Thanksgiving.
I even did some wrapping. I
Yeah.
usually don't have time for it, and my lovely husband steps in. He likes to do it. And so I just push it off. And I think it's just a matter of like, just get it bought. Like I would see the thing of like, okay, I'll wait till Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because I've also worried about that for, buying too much.
Yes.
If you start earlier, I've heard that,
Yes.
but I think you just kind of have to have in mind what your kids want. And yeah.
Well, okay. So for me, that's actually a good point. When the kids were little, that was harder because I found that I would start buying early. Like I would know things that they'd want or they'd say what they want. And then 2 weeks before Christmas, they wanted other stuff and they changed their mind. And then I couldn't take back what I, like, it was just too much of a pain. So then I had like double the stuff.
My teenager still does that.
But yeah, well, I don't feel like my kids do that as much. Like, I don't think that would be the problem. It's just rallying them to like, if there's something they want, like nobody wants to think about that in October. I remember my mother-in-law, God bless her, before Labor Day, she would start calling me like the week before. What do the kids want for Christmas? I'd be like, Karen, can I just enjoy the summer? And because she'd be done and wrapped, like she was,
wow,
end of September, she was done and ready for Christmas. Like, what is happening here?
That's aspirations, goals.
Right.
Speaking of, that's actually our topic this week. So set a time for goal setting before the end of the year, talking about how we do that. Each of us does it a little differently.
Yep.
But we both recommend getting outside of your own four walls. You could go to a coffee shop in your town. It doesn't have to be like a vacation. My husband and I have done this before where we've gotten a hotel room in our town.
I have friends that do that too.
We'll go out for a really nice dinner. And then either before we go out, we'll do some goal setting together or incorporate it in our coffee break / date night meeting that we do at this hotel. It's been a few years since we've done that. It was great when the kids were little. It was the best way to get it done. But
let me interject real quick.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about the coffee break and date night she's talking about, we have a prior episode.
Yes.
So make sure you go and look at that.
Yeah.
If you haven't.
Anything else to say on just doing the goal setting? We'll have we have our goals framework, obviously. So it's the best structure if you're a kind of a person who's like, well, I just don't even know where to start. I have all these possibilities and they get overwhelmed. The goals framework, which Dr. Brooke, you'll have this linked in the show notes. And
it's a free
download it. It's completely free and it's going to help take you along your planning process, give you some guidelines, give you some structure to make sure that you're really planning and shooting for things that hit with your values and your goals and where you're trying to get to in this next year.
Yes.
Right.
And we've talked about the goals framework before, and we did an episode, the mid-year check-in, we go through the goals framework a bit, but also you will have the opportunity if you download it to get Dr. Lynn's tutorial where she breaks the whole thing down. But essentially we start with a theme word, which is in the center, or a theme for the year. We have an area for you to put whatever works for you, either a quote or something motivational, a couple things that you want to be mindful of through the year, or a favorite scripture. That's what I like to do, maybe one or two of those. And then from the theme word in the center, we branch out into, we've broken down, I think there's 6 or 7 categories that we feel are important for living your best life after kids, like for women, moms in this phase of life. So some of this could be different. Dr. Lynn has said in the past, if it doesn't apply to you, move on and just, use the other ones. And then there's also a place for you to list 2 or 3 areas where you're going to take a risk, or just two or three things that you want to do to get out of your comfort zone and take a risk. So that's, for me, has been so helpful, because otherwise, if you don't sit down with a framework and you're just like, okay, what do I want to do with the year? You could be all over the place. So this way, when you have the categories in front of you, you know what your central theme is. That's where you're starting. That can apply to all those categories. But then you can start with one category. Say it's contribution. I think that's one of them, right? Contribution or hobbies, and start to list goals that you have for yourself or things that you know you want to accomplish.
Yes. Yeah, and there's probably lots of ways to do this, but this particular one is designed, like Dr. Brooks said, because of our experience and because we're midlife women just like you. And so it's really relevant to what we're trying to accomplish at this stage, right? I have this note here talking about rhythm. So it's October, you're hearing this. Hopefully you get started on your planning.
Yeah.
And then January is going to roll along. Start to think of your year, start to break up your year, if you don't already, in 90-day increments. So it's really helpful if you are wanting to work towards something to do that, because you guys know that if you set this in January and then you don't look at it again, will come next October, you're going to pull up that sheet and go, oh yeah,
this is what I was going to do.
That's
right.
what I was supposed to be doing all year. Right. So, I mean, some of this stuff's advanced. If you are just beginning, call it good. You're downloading the goals framework and you're getting something in writing. So a goal is only a goal if it's written down. Otherwise, it's a wish, a dream, or a prayer. Okay.
Yeah.
Which are powerful too. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But if you take that and put it onto paper, your mind, your brain, your actions, your behavior have a way of wanting to make things come true that you've committed to.
And you have said this in the past, you've cited research, but it's worth saying again that there is research behind this that shows the percentage of, when you write something down, the percentage of it actually happening and getting done is so much greater.
Yeah, compared to somebody who doesn't write it down. So that's why we really advocate for those written goals. So if you can, like I said, take a next step beyond starting with the written goals, the next point would be to break up your year in 90-day increments. Start to look at that at the end of your quarter and chunk up your goal for the entire year to what can you get done? What's reasonable? What's attainable? What is realistic? Give yourself a time deadline so that you will be more motivated to move along. And then you can get big projects done in that way by chunking it up.
Yes, I love it. And to that end, I wanted to touch on this too, beyond, and maybe if you don't want to go here right now, we can save it for later, but it seems like it makes sense because you're talking about the 90-day chunks. The other conversation I wanted to have here today was not just about starting to plan for the next year, but that everybody wants to back off of these last 90 days of the year and just put like, oh, well, it's October and the new year's going to be slide. I might as well just wait till the new year to do it. I might as well just let myself go. There's no point in working on something now or trying something now. Whereas I like to reframe that and think like, how can I put my best foot forward and be my best self and do the best self now so that I have momentum going into the new year?
That's so great. We're going to talk about on a future episode the most productive. So I looked into some research about the most productive days even and months of the year. And it's really surprising. So, but it has relevance to that. So stay tuned for that. I love that. The next thing is when you're doing that reflection back, make sure that you're celebrating. So it's really, some of us have a tendency to minimize, and if we accomplish something and then we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But really, guys, this stage of our life should be more about celebration, right? Than it is sadness. And we should get in that habit, I think, of celebrating more. So I'm really, really making, that might be my word.
Celebrate? Oh, wait, you're going to have your word celebrate, my word's hospitality.
Oh my gosh, we're having a party.
We're going to have to plan some trips and retreats with people and gatherings.
We've already been asked to do that. So I think that sounds fabulous.
But hey, hold on, because I just have to say something that I don't know if you realize how wise what you just said there is. Because I do think that we fall into this pattern of sadness or pity for ourselves now for two reasons. One, the kids are getting older and leaving and we feel a little lonely. And two, we know we're getting older.
Yeah.
And it's like, you hit your 50s and looking
about
around like,
what's
oh my
ahead.
gosh, what's behind and what's, and I love those words that we shouldn't be operating from sadness or even like loss or mourning, whatever. We should be celebrating like, we have like
Right?
a whole opportunity to like all the things that we wanted to do or were doing before the kids came along and we got bogged down in that, not meaning that was a bad thing, but we can do now. And most of us probably have more means to do it.
Yes. I mean, I'm excited just sitting here like talking about it. And that's exactly the point is you can reframe, you can quickly pivot. It all starts right here. So you can either look at it as, well, this is sad time, or you can find the opportunities, any opportunity to celebrate.
Yes.
So looking back, if you've checked even one thing off your list, give yourself a pat on the back. And more than likely, if you look back at your 90-day successes and get them all written down, that's something that's been pivotal for me, is you have no idea what you've just done.
Yeah.
Right? We either just don't think it's extraordinary enough or we don't stop to acknowledge it. So make that the time where you do celebrate all your successes.
That's so key. And by the way, not only will that make you feel good about yourself, it's also going to give you so much motivation to keep going. So like in the time, and then, you know, when if you write that down, the days where you are feeling like why bother, whatever comes in, we all have those days. Nobody, us too. Like both of us, there are days where the worst is when we get on the phone and we're both feeling that way. And we've had those moments where I'm calling you to get picked up and you're like, I'm right there with you, sister. I can't help you. Usually it's not that way. Usually we can pull somebody up. But if you don't have somebody, or in our case, if we're both in the same headspace, when you can pull that back out and look at what you've accomplished and feel good about that, it's a good motivation.
It's like staying in, I think a lot of times it's the gap in the game, right?
Yes.
We get used to having the yardstick be the thing that we're working towards, and we're not going to celebrate until we're there. However, you have to acknowledge that, you know, from A to B, if this is your end point and you're in the middle, you have to acknowledge all the success right here, you know, and you can do this with your kids too. If you have older kids that are struggling with not feeling where they should be in life, or friends that are doing that, make sure that you help them, be a cheerleader for them. I mean, that's a great way. Like you just lifted my mood, even just talking about celebration, you know, it's
I can feel the energy in us talking is just gone like this. Yeah. Just that one little pivot.
It's huge.
And that's why I think the mindset and then the intentionality behind this is the important thing. However you're going to do it, our goals framework or whatever, but just being intentional and then it getting you in the right mindset is pivotal for transforming the way you want your life to look. It definitely keeps you from staying just status quo and in your comfort zone or which
if you're here listening to us, you want something.
Yeah, you probably don't want that.
You probably don't. And the other thing is we all have one of these, right? Most of us do. Just set your reminder. It's so convenient. Put your 90-day reminder in there. Put your end of year review. We have a family calendar. I'll put that on either my personal calendar, or if it's the time that I'm going to sit down with my husband, get your kids involved. That's super fun.
Yeah. I know that you guys make a habit of doing that.
Yeah.
We don't do that as much, but I will say that, and I've said this so many times before when we talk about this, that kids learn the most by watching what you do. And my first son this year in college, and this is a little bit different than goals, but still similar, called me and was like, Mom, I just got this. I can't remember. It was like the 5-minute journal. He's like, I just got this journal. He's like, I do like a daily practice of it. I'm writing in it every day. It wants me to set I set 2 goals. I write things that I'm grateful for. I have like this plan, like what he was going was like in my mind. I didn't say it to him, but I'm like, who are you? Because I would have never guessed that a freshman, boy in college was doing that. And I never told him to do that. But he's watched me do these things for years. And I was so proud of him and excited, because when you set, especially if you're starting that as a freshman in college,
that's huge. It's going to set you up for so much.
Yeah. And
that's a great story, because you're going to get to this, I'm sure. Just take heart, because your example is more powerful than you know.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was going to say. And to that end, I'm going off on, I think I've had too much matcha. So I'm like, "Woo," but sometimes that's good. But also, I saw a meme the other day that I loved, and I might have shared it on our stories, but I don't know if I did, that said, be be the mom your kids can be proud of. And I was like, like I love that, because that's we're not only doing this, I believe, for ourselves, because selfishly we want good things for ourselves, but unselfishly it's a precedent to set for your kids too. Like, to see their mother thriving in life and living a fulfilling life and reaching their goals, they're watching that. And how much, it's that BJ Palmer quote, how far reaching something you think, say, and do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And not just, everybody in general, but your kids specifically.
Which is the, who we care the most about,
right,
obviously, in most cases.
Yeah. Right.
So good.
And I think we all have, I think all of us could agree that one of our biggest concerns in life is our kids being fulfilled and happy, right? And whatever it is that they're doing, and being their best selves and living their best lives. That's what we could all want for our children. What better way to help them get there than to do it for ourselves and then see that example?
Love that. And it also helps us to stay in our zone of control, right? When we think about it like that, instead of trying to orchestrate or, sit them down and tell them they need to write goals, we stay in our zone of control. They're our adult children or our husband. We can't impact what they choose to do, but we can focus that here on better habits, better practices, better mindset for ourselves, getting to know ourselves more deeply, loving ourselves more proudly, more loudly.
Yeah.
And that is the example that then they see.
Right.
So good. That's life after kids summed up right there.
Right. And so to bring it back to this conversation, don't discount the impact you have not only on your own life when you sit down in October to work on your goals and think about forecasting the next year, not only the impact it's having on your own life, but what it's going to do for your kids.
So great.
And even your husband in a roundabout way. And I would challenge you.
Your mom, your sister.
Right. Maybe do some of this when your child, if your kids are away at school or whatever, if they're home for a fall break or weekend, this might be a really great time to bring some of this out. And even if you're not doing it, you want to spend time with your kids, like, there's nothing wrong with letting it out on the counter and letting someone see it. You don't have to say it, but like, get them in a roundabout way involved. Let them see what you're doing with your life.
Practices. That's a great Thanksgiving question. So what do you want for yourself next year? Mm-hmm. What's your highest priority next year for yourself?
Yeah.
And go around the table.
Yeah. And what's something that you're super grateful for in the year that you've already had?
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrating the successes.
Your biggest accomplishment or whatever. Yeah, we always do that.
Celebrating the successes. So let's talk a little bit about the failures, though, because the failures are what keep a lot of people, or the fear of that, from writing goals, unfortunately. And it is a little bit uncomfortable to write something down that you feel a little foolish. Quite frankly, I've done it, and I'm writing it, and I go, I really do want that, but there's something in me that doesn't feel either worthy or doesn't feel like I am going to be able to get it. I just want to challenge you to write it down anyway, because it gets a little easier, and you will be amazed at what will happen just by writing something down. You may not reach the entire thing, but you will get something out of that process. I promise you.
It's great.
So there's that. And on like what to expect and just managing your expectation at the end of the year, if you have accomplished about 80% of your goals or 80% of your action steps, that is 100% success. And here's why. Right? We want some failures, because if we are not reaching, in other words, if we're reaching everything that we set down and set forth for ourselves, we're not thinking big enough.
I love that. So you should feel good. So when we're setting our goals, we want to set them big enough that some of them might just stretch us beyond the point. And that's okay. That's a good thing.
That's okay. It just might be something that will take 2 years to get to, right? But again, make sure you celebrate and look where you started, where you end up, and see the success in the midway point or the 3/4. And it's okay. And there are going to be some things. I think that's why it's helpful. And that might be in our goal framework already, is just, what are your stretch goals? What are your reach? How do we talk about that with colleges? Safety goals.
Yeah.
And what's
reach.
the middle one? No, I know the reach, but there's like
safety,
probable, and then reach goals.
Or likely. I think it's safety, likely, and then reach.
Sure, however you want to call that. But maybe that's a great way to chunk up your goals. And then you can, have it in your mind, hey, this is a big, hairy, audacious goal that I'm setting here. It's my stretch goal. So if you don't quite get there, you'll feel a little better because well, this one was
really big.
Kind of, maybe a little out of my reach. But you can get in the habit of doing that and thinking bigger. And again, you might just surprise the heck out of yourself.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really good idea. And I really love the idea. We should add that to our goals framework of so what you could do, what I think would be the best way to do this, if you've got the goals framework already, you're going to download it, is in your different sections, right? We have those 6 or 7 areas where you want to flourish in life after kids. As you list the goals underneath them, or the things that you want to do, mark a little, like a, what did we say? Likely. What was the first one?
Reach,
likely, and safety. And you could write an R, an L, or an S, so you can kind of signify which one's which. And remember, maybe even highlight the ones that are reach, just to be mindful and keep them in the forefront of your mind. And by the way, this has played out in my life for sure, because I've had years where I've written down, write a book. And I would write that down and be like, when am I going to write a book? This was well before Life After Kids even began. This is when I'm still in the office seeing patients. And I just always loved writing. I've shared this with you. I when I was young, from the time I can remember, I always either wanted to be a writer and in journalism or a chiropractor in the health field. And I went through the health field, but I wrote a chapter, like I typed on my little word processor my parents got me when I was little, a book. So I would always write that down, and now we're writing a book.
I know.
And that was talk about a big, hairy, audacious dream or goal, as you say.
Right, and you could have said any number of things at that age.
Yeah.
But the one that you did set is the one that you're accomplishing.
Right.
Yeah,
and the one that I wrote down.
What I mean about that cognitive, alignment or congruency. It's when you say something and you commit to something, and you write it down, that cements the deal.
It's very powerful.
It's very powerful because your brain works in that way where it wants to make what you say true. So it will affect your subconscious behavior.
It absolutely does.
Yep.
It absolutely does.
Great place to end.
Yeah, I think so. I would say just one more thing. I just want to circle back that get your goals framework. Let's just recap. Get the goals framework, download it if you don't have it already. If you need a little extra help, get the goals tutorial that you do. Get started now with it. Even if you just think on your theme words, start brainstorming over the next couple weeks. But then start maybe jotting things down. And even if you have half of that done, then you can once the holiday's over and you're really ready to head into the new year, if you got that goals framework done, now you can sit down and pull out your planner or your calendar in your phone and start listing the action steps where and when they need to take place for you to get those things done. That's where I think this can really come in handy for you all, is if you start that, use that goals framework as a brainstorming tool, right? And then once you get later in the year or past the holidays, sit down and get really strategic about how you're going to make those things happen.
Love it.
And last reminder,
it's going to be a great year.
It's going to be such an awesome year. Yes, I know. I can't wait. Celebrate hospitality. The other thing is that we should mention is you can take that then, whatever you're starting to put together now, print it out and have a smaller version that you keep in your planner or on your desk or wherever you are, so you can be reminded of it often. And I put mine in my laundry room.
That is, I've said huge a lot in this podcast, but I need a new word. But no, that really is everything, because if you just set it and forget it, then it's much more powerful when you pull it out and you remind your brain, oh yeah, we committed to that. We better get going on it.
Right. So you're not going to do that now because it's October. But once everything is filled out and you're ready to go and the new year hits, get that out somewhere that you can refer back to it very often. Okay, now we can stop. I said my last piece.
Good. I like the recap.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. I hope you're following us on all of our social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you prefer to watch us now that we've got this beautiful backdrop, you can watch on YouTube. And the website is www.lifeafterkids.com. I will link the goals framework in the show notes and in the email that you're going to get with this podcast. But you can also get it by going to www.lifeafterkids.com. You're going to click the resource tab button over on the left. All of our resources will come down. The goals framework will be there for you. And if you want to take it up a notch, get your butt into the Life After Kids membership community so we can talk about all this stuff with you on a deeper level and get a little more personal, and you can talk to other ladies that are on the same trajectory. So ladies, have a great day and have an even better week.
Yes, go crush your goals and big hugs.